Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show. We are here recording this episode on Tuesday evening, March 18th, as we wrap up our NCAA tournament previews region by region. We've already hit the South, the East, the West, and now we are here in the Midwest region, led by Houston, the number one seed here. Tennessee is your two. Kentucky, the Wildcats, are your three. We will get in to all that good stuff as we break down this Midwest region. But as I mentioned, I have already broken down each of the other three regions. So make sure you are subscribed here to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel. You can go back and check those out. Also, make sure you are following me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR. That's the best place to stay up to date with everything, all my content and everything that I'm doing throughout March Madness and well beyond college basketball related. So make sure you give me a follow there as well. But diving into this Midwest region, as I mentioned, you have the Houston Cougars at number one, a team that has just kind of quietly gone about their business all season long and put together one of the most impressive resumes in the country. Houston is 30-4 after running through the Big 12, finishing 19-1, winning the regular season title by 4 games. I believe, yes, they were 4 games ahead of second place Texas Tech at 15-5. And then went on to win the Big 12 tournament as well. So just an incredible season from Coach Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars. I obviously don't expect them to have any issues with SIUE in the first round. But a very intriguing round of 64 matchup is that 8-9 matchup in the Midwest region between Gonzaga and Georgia. Gonzaga is a team that's been very high in the analytics throughout the season. They've been, honestly, probably top 10 in KenPom as much or more as they haven't been. They're number 9 right now, number 9 in offensive efficiency as well, led by point guard Ryan Nimhard, who's certainly one of the best in the country. Still have Graham Ike, who's a really good interior presence for the Bulldogs as well. We know how deadly that pick and roll between those guys can be, especially when you space the floor a little bit with Khalif Battle. You'll have Braden Huff and Ben Gregg in there as well in the Bulldogs front court to help on the roll. Nolan Hickman certainly as a shooter for the Bulldogs as well. And then a Georgia team that got off to a great start. They were at 1.14-2 overall, stumbled a little bit throughout SEC play, but then rattled off 4 straight to end the regular season and really solidify themselves a NCAA tournament berth. They finished 20-12 and 8-10 in the vaunted Southeastern Conference. Led by Silas DeMary, Asa Newell, one of the better freshmen that probably doesn't get talked about enough on a national scale. Blue Kane is an excellent shooter for them. Dakota LeFew. These guys that can make shots from three-point range and can be dangerous. This is Coach Mike White's team's probably leaving a little bit better defensively, especially around the rim. Excellent at blocking shots, excellent at protecting the paint. Though they don't defensive rebound a grade, they are excellent on the offensive glass. So ultimately, I think that what Gonzaga can do offensively, again, with Ryan Nimhard and Nolan Hickman and those guys, I just think Gonzaga's going to score too much against this pretty good Bulldogs defense, and Gonzaga would be your pick to move on here. And honestly, I think that Gonzaga is a team, again, they're so good offensively that they could give Houston a run for their money in that round of 32 matchup. Always famous, the 5-12s, and especially here with Will Wade and McNeese taking on number 5 seed Clemson. This is one where I think Clemson is really, really good. Let's not forget the season they had. I know it's in the ACC, which is, people really don't give much credit to this year, but they did go 18-2, including a win over the Duke Blue Devils this season, 27-6 overall. Excellent defensively. Ian Sheffield is a very unique player, the way he can score and rebound around the basket. Then you have Chase Hunter, Jaden Zachary, those guys out on the perimeter. I really like Chauncey Wiggins as well as a versatile kind of pick and pop 4-man for the Tigers, and the big dude Victor Locken in the middle as well. And he can even step out and make some threes for the Tigers as well, who were 37.2%, a top 30-ish team in terms of three-point shooting percentage. Now, when it comes to McNeese, you have plenty of athletes. They're playing with a ton of confidence right now, having won 11 straight games entering March Madness, including going 19-1 and winning the Southland Conference Tournament. They rank 63rd in adjusted offensive efficiency, 65th in adjusted defensive efficiency, which is very, very good for a mid-major team. They can shoot it a little bit as well, 35.6% from beyond the arc, led by DJ Richards, who made 78 threes at a 44.6% clip this season. That they have some guys that certainly have been to this level before. It did not go well in postseason play for Coach Will Wade's group last year, actually running into Gonzaga, losing by 21 points in the first round. But I expect now coming back, they're going to be much more prepared and ready for the stage. I just think that Clemson's a little bit too good in order for them to drop this one. Purdue High Point, another one, kind of because of the Boilermakers past as a team that they lost to St. Peter's, I believe in the Sweet 16, the year that they beat Kentucky. That they also obviously lost to Fairleigh Dickinson, a 16-1 upset just a couple of years ago, but they also played for a national championship with Zach Edey there last season. So I think that led by Braden Smith, I just don't see this High Point team that's not very good defensively. Now, I love Coach Allen Huss. I love what this High Point team can do offensively, but I think they're just going to get picked apart by Braden Smith in the pick and roll with Trey Kaufman-Wren and those guys, and then Fletcher Lawyer as a floor spacer. This backcourt of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have won a ton of college basketball games, and they are going, I think, to do so once again this March. What I just said about McNeese, I think, is relevant for High Point. It's High Point's first trip to the NCAA tournament ever. Last year when McNeese made it, they just weren't really ready for the stage. I think that High Point, they've already kind of accomplished their goal by getting there, and I just don't see a Braden Smith-led team losing to a team that struggles defensively like High Point in the first round. We're still waiting to see who Illinois, the 6 seed, will play. It's either Xavier or Texas. I think both of those teams are very dangerous. They're teams that I think could potentially make a run, but honestly, Illinois could too. These are all very intriguing teams. Illinois, I mentioned it right off the top when this bracket was released. Illinois is a team that's played probably more like a 3 seed at times when Yakachonis is really rolling, and what they can get from all their other kind of jumbo-sized guards across the board. They play more like that 2, 3, 4 seed certainly. But the reason they're a 6 seed is because they've also looked like a bubble team at times. That's why they have 10 or 11 losses this season and have struggled to really put it all together at 12 losses actually under Coach Brad Underwood. But they're very dangerous offensively. They don't shoot it great from 3, but they do put a lot of them up. So when they get hot, they can be very, very, very dangerous. Kylan Boswell, Will Riley, Tomas Visic, all these guys, or Tomislav Visic, excuse me. These guys are very, very good players and massive positionally across the board. That would be a tough matchup for anybody as they continue to move forward. But Xavier's a team I was very high on going into the season, probably underachieved a little bit until late in Big East play where they made a run that was good enough to get them one of the final at-large bids. Ryan Conwell made 97 threes at over 40% this year. You have Zach Freemantle there for the Musketeers as well. Then obviously Davian McKnight running the show in the backcourt as well. But then Texas has Trey Johnson. Like I said, each of these teams is individually very capable of going on a run, but only one of them is even going to make it into the field of 64. Then obviously only one of them can advance any further from there. Texas is talented. Arthur Kaluma, I already mentioned Trey Johnson. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. That's not going to be an easy matchup for Illinois, and I would be very tempted, even as much as I like the upside of this Illinois team, I'd be very tempted to pick the 11 seed, whoever wins on Wednesday night. Kentucky Troy, obviously this is one on other platforms I will talk plenty about, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it here. But Kentucky, really the main storyline is health for them. They've been without Kirk Risa for most of the season. Now he remains out. Jackson Robinson is also out for the season, the Wildcats' second leading scorer. It sounds like and looks like that Lamont Butler, the point guard, will be back for the Cats, which is huge. They frankly wouldn't have much of a chance at all in March without him. He's a guy that's played for a national championship in a previous life at San Diego State. But I think that this Kentucky team will be able to take care of business against Troy. Troy is a unique first-round matchup in the sense that they play a lot of zone. They also press you quite a bit. And I likened them, as soon as this matchup came out, I likened them to the mid-major version of Texas A&M. They shoot a ton of threes, but they don't make them. They're 29.9%, one of the worst three-point shooting teams in college basketball. But what they do very well is offensive rebound. They're 6th in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. Sounds similar to Texas A&M. They have a star guard. It's not Wade Taylor IV, but it is Peyton Connerway, who was the Sun Belt Player of the Year this year. Excellent downhill driver, excellent playmaker, excellent on-ball defender. They also are one of the best at forcing turnovers. They're 7th in steal rate in all of college basketball. They're very aggressive on that end. I already mentioned the zone and the pressing and some of what they do. They also just kind of have a free safety roaming around, double in the post a lot of times. So I think that Kentucky should be able to pick a lot of that apart as long as you take care of the basketball, because that'll really work twofold. One, it'll allow you to score more and get more shots up, and usually that's a good thing for Kentucky. But secondly, it keeps Troy from getting easy points, and they're a team that does struggle in the half court to score at times. They shed a ton of ball screens, but especially against high major opponents, they've really, really, really struggled to score. And I think that if you keep them out of transition, keep them out of from getting points off of turnovers, it'll be hard for Kentucky not to score enough to win, and it'll be hard for Troy to score enough to win. In the 7-10 matchup, UCLA versus Utah State. UCLA led by some solid guard play. Sebastian Mack off of the bench for them, but also you have Kobe Johnson, you have Dylan Andrews, those guys starting for the Bruins. Trent Perry off the bench as well, and then Sky Clark kind of running the show there as well. He shot it pretty well this season. Then Tyler Bilodeau has really been the story for the Bruins this season, over 40% from three. The Oregon State transfer as a very skilled front court piece for Coach Chris Mack. Utah State comes out of the Mountain West with a 26-7 record. Ian Martinez and he is the name to know there. He made 71 threes this season at a 36% clip. One of the best guards in college basketball that you may not have watched up to this point in the season. I think that UCLA will be too good defensively in this one for Utah State. I love Ian Martinez. I love what the Aggies do under Coach Jared Calhoun in his first season coming from Youngstown State. But as good as Utah State is offensively, I just think that UCLA can slow them down enough. And then the Aggies are not very good defensively. And I think that you'll be able to get Clark and Andrews and those guys rolling, especially with Bilodeau spacing the floor some as well. And the Bruins will be able to move on. And lastly, you have the 2-15, Tennessee and Wofford. Not much of a sense in getting too much into this one. I think that Tennessee will be able to bottle them up defensively as they do to a lot of opponents. And then how far they go, it'll be based on Zakai Ziegler and then what you can get out of Chaz Lanier. I've said it all season on this show. When Chaz Lanier plays like an All-American, Tennessee is as good as anybody in the country because they give themselves a chance in every game defensively. But with that, with some of their offensive struggles, they then also, there's times where they allow their opponent to be in every game because they can't get out of the 60s or they can't break, 70, 72, 75 points. Do I think they're susceptible to an upset against Wofford? Probably not. Do I think they're susceptible to an upset to a UCLA or, further down the road? Absolutely. I think that it's always kind of in play for Coach Rick Barnes' teams in March. So looking back here, 30,000-foot view of the Midwest region. Again, I've been pretty chalky through a lot of this bracket because I think that the number one seeds are very far separated from the field. And then even as you go to the 2, 3s, and 4s, I just don't see a ton of massive upsets here in the first round, though it is March Madness for a reason. That our brackets could all be blown to shreds by this time Thursday or Friday night. But I would really circle in on McNeese, I guess, over Clemson if you had to pick one. But like I said, I like Clemson still to advance in that one. But probably my favorite pick in this bracket would be that Xavier or Texas winner to get through and beat Illinois. Again, I really, really like this Illinois team. I just think that all three teams really are very talented and a little bit of a roller coaster. And if I really had to pick a lower seeded team to win here, I would take either Xavier or Texas to beat Illinois. In terms of a dark horse to advance a little further, like I said, I could see a world where Gonzaga beats Houston. I could see a world where Purdue beats Houston in the Sweet 16 and moves on to the Elite Eight. I could also see a world where, even though I just picked them to lose, I could see Illinois making some noise. I could see UCLA beating Tennessee. I do think that further down the bracket, there could be some upsets here because we've seen Kentucky, the 3 seed, they've beaten Tennessee twice already. If that ends up being the matchup in Indianapolis in the Sweet 16, even with a bit of a depleted, banged up roster, I could see the Wildcats winning for a third time because that's a pretty favorable matchup for Kentucky. So I think that as you get into the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds, you can start to see a little bit of chaos here in the Midwest. But ultimately, the Houston Cougars have had such a good season. It's hard to pick against Coach Cohen Sampson's group. I think they will find their way down to the home state of Texas and playing San Antonio in the Final Four this season. But there you have it for our Midwest region preview. We talked winners, we talked upsets, we talked some dark horses, and we broke down each matchup individually in the best fashion that we can. That means it is now time for a bracket. We're going to be back live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel, filling out our official bracket for March Madness. That show is always a lot of fun. We'll once again be talking kind of matchup to matchup, but you can go back here on the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show YouTube channel and check out each of our four region previews. We'll have some more content coming to you throughout March Madness. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Leave this video a like, leave it a comment as well if you have any questions. Catch me on Twitter. Give me a follow there at BRamseyKSR. And again, enjoy filling out your brackets. Hopefully you've learned something from these shows and helped you win some bracket pools. I'll have plenty of gambling picks coming out on KS Board and at BRamseyKSR heading into Thursday as well. I'll have boots on the ground out in Milwaukee watching Kentucky versus Troy and the games throughout the weekend there on Friday and Sunday. So stay tuned for some kind of live coverage from the event as well. Hope you all enjoy March Madness. This is truly the best time of the year. So enjoy some hoops. Best of luck in your brackets. Enjoy March Madness, and thank you for being here.